Jordan Conradson with the Gateway Pundit. Joining me now is Abe Hamadeh, the Congressman-Elect from Arizona's District 8. So, Abe, you won this election decisively. You finally got a fair shake in elections. I know that you were fighting pretty much your stolen election in 2022, as well as campaigning pretty much the whole time. What is your plan to fight for fair and honest elections once you get to Congress in January?
Jordan, I learned a lot over these past few years, and just yesterday, the Arizona Supreme Court denied hearing our case from the 2022 election. It's amazing that it took them 2 years for it to make its way up there, even though they heard cases from Kari Lake, and my race was decided by 280 votes out of 2.5 million. So now going into Congress, in many ways, I also proved that the 2022 election in Arizona was stolen. So I know exactly what's going on here in Arizona. It's going to require a deep dive at the state level as well. This is why I'm looking forward to President Trump's Department of Justice and him appointing a strong U.S. attorney all across the states, because that's what's going to take. But at the congressional level, what I want to do is any city or state that allows illegal immigrants to vote or is going to be on their voting rolls to withhold federal funding from them. I mean, this is when the Democrats talk about attacks on democracy. The biggest attack on democracy is allowing non-citizens to change the course of the country from U.S. citizens. Americans are sick and tired of being treated as second-class citizens. Another aspect I want to focus on is making sure the Department of Justice has an election integrity and election and fraud unit as well. They have to be working hand in hand with the state level and the county levels to make sure that the voter rolls are cleaned up, that the voting processes are followed. Here in Arizona, you're no stranger to these corrupt elections here, Jordan. The National Voting Rights Act is not being followed. We're still waiting for a Senate race right now to be called. It's absolutely a disgrace. And then one other thing that I want to focus on in Congress, and luckily it was defeated at the state level pretty handedly, not just in Arizona, but across the country, and in Alaska just repealed it, is the ranked choice voting. The ranked choice voting is basically an open invitation to allow fraud and cheating into elections. So I want to ban ranked choice voting at the federal level in Washington, D.C. But that's the main priorities that I'm going to be focused on. But also the SAVE Act that we weren't able to get passed because of Joe Biden and maybe some weak Republicans, that it should be common sense that you should have voting ID to vote, that you shouldn't have illegal immigrants voting. So we are going to pass all of these now that we have control of the Senate, the House, and the White House.
Wow, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I've seen Bill Gates and other Maricopa County officials get called into Congress, but they were just getting slobbered on by the rhinos and the Democrats who were trying to get dirt on Trump with the January 6th committee hearings. So, is there a chance that we might see the Republican Congress, if we can pull in the House, call in people like Bill Gates, Stephen Richer, other corrupt election officials from across the country, and do real investigations into, as you said, the federal law violations that are possibly taking place?
Well, I want to investigate what's been going on in our elections. I don't want to give some of these, quite frankly, losers any more coverage, because they love the media attention. They're egomaniacal morons, Jordan. So they would love being hauled in and getting a payday at the end of the day to go work for some Democrat groups. I don't want to boost their profile continuously. In my opinion, I want to remove their names from my vocabulary. And just yesterday, you saw that the Maricopa County recorder just deleted his Twitter profile, X profile. And I mean, it's also unusual, right, that he deleted it in the middle of them tabulating votes. I mean, it's so bizarre. He mixes his personal and government business on it. But we have to. I mean, Ken Paxton has been doing a good job in Texas as the attorney general out there. I know some of these other agents, we have moved the needle so much. And I give a lot of credit to the Gateway Pundit, Jordan. We have moved the needle so much where now almost universally every Republican acknowledges that we have to tackle election integrity seriously versus just 2 years ago. It was kind of lonely out there. We were getting all the hits being called election deniers, and yet we're being proven correctly a lot of times. So something's got to change. And I know President Trump cares about it. So it's people who went through it, like myself, Kari Lake, President Trump. We are not going to let up on it. Trust me, Jordan, because we have been given this opportunity, this mandate by the people. And if we don't fix our elections this time around, believe me, the Democrats are going to manipulate it going forward and try to solidify it. Because I got to respect the Democrats. They are so ruthless. They are always trying to find ways to try to manipulate the elections in their favor. I mean, look at Mark Elias right now. He's going into court in Pennsylvania Senate race. So we just have to be on top of it. So whatever I can do in the congressional level, we're going to be focused on, as well as with President Trump's leadership.
And to your point, if anybody knows a thing or two about stolen elections, rigged elections, it's you, Kari Lake, and Donald Trump, all major victims of the fraud in Maricopa County, President Trump and other states. But you mentioned Kari Lake's race. Stephen Richer deleted his Twitter account right in the middle of them counting ballots. It's almost poetic that Kari Lake and you have the chance to go to Washington, D.C. If Kari Lake can pull through in this close race. She's catching up in the vote count. What are your thoughts on the 2-week counting process, all the shady questions around the election, like 218,000 possibly illegal voters, and these strange numbers that are coming out showing in the beginning Ruben Gallego had more votes than President Trump. I mean, what are your thoughts on all this Kari Lake selection?
Jordan, in Arizona, it is a complete mess. And I'm so disgusted by our justices on the Arizona Supreme Court, all of whom are Republican appointed, by the way. They didn't take our election case seriously. In my case in 2022, that they just rejected literally yesterday, was talking about them, the counties illegally removing people from the voter rolls, people like veterans who have been on it for decades. And it's all because of system-wide glitches that even the Secretary of State just acknowledged, the Democrat Secretary of State acknowledged weeks prior to the election. And that's why that 218,000 possible voters who have not proved citizenship arose. But I want to let you know that the provisional ballots this time around has even increased more than 2022. So this problem has not been fixed. So I am concerned about the state of the race here with Kari Lake, because I think she's going to be in a very, very similar position to where I was when I was running for Attorney General 2 years ago. It's going to be very close, Jordan, just looking at the margins and the returns coming back. But having these 2-week-long periods, it's an open invitation for them to manipulate the ballots. It doesn't give confidence for the people where you release selective batches at 70,000 a day. It's unbelievable. I saw the Florida Secretary of State, offered their help to help set up Arizona's elections. We've become the laughingstock of the country, and it's time we take back control of it. Mail-in ballots, Jordan, I'm not a fan of. And I say that even though 85% of Arizonans use it, it's obviously not the safest, most secure way to vote. And by the way, it allows a month of voting. And we have to try to go back to, and this is why I talk to my colleagues in Congress, but a lot of them don't understand how voting works in other states, like in Arizona, where 85% of the vote will be in prior to election day. Whether they tabulate it or not is a whole different story. But we should strive to go back to this simple concept. The first Tuesday of November, election day. I don't think that's a difficult idea for everybody to get behind, and make sure it's a voting holiday and that you have to prove and show your voting ID to go vote. That's the safest, most secure way. So that's what I'm going to be advocating for. But unfortunately, the rolls are a complete mess, and it's only highlighted the fact when you have mail-in voting. I mean, we were getting reports, so many reports of people getting multiple mail-in ballots at their houses. I got them in the 2020 election when I was serving overseas, multiple mail-in ballots that were not in my name. So it is a complete mess. And this is exactly where the Congress needs to look at ways to make sure our elections are secure again.
Right. It's really just despicable how the Maricopa County officials act like, oh, nothing's going on. They show contempt for people who just simply ask questions. I want to move on to talk about the border. And I mean, of course, this does tie into elections, but on November 4th, the night before the election, you made a statement at the rally on election eve talking about designating the cartels as terrorist organizations. The crowd went wild. If we can retain the House majority with the Republican majority in the Senate, do you believe that that's something we will be able to accomplish?
We must. And I'm no fan of wars, but I'm a fan of protecting our country and protecting our people. And these drug cartels who control our southern border, because Mexico has ceded that territory to them, they are running rampant. They allow the fentanyl coming in from China. They allow these millions of illegal immigrants to flood our border into our country. They allow terrorists to come into our country. If there is one war we should be fighting, it's against these monsters. So designating them as as a foreign terrorist organization, the drug cartels, what that would allow us to do is stop their financial network access, which is necessary. I mean, this is the drug cartels are not just people with tattoos and people who look like gangbangers. No, I mean, they're businessmen. They're sophisticated. It's a mafia in a sense. And but it's a sophisticated type of mafia terrorist organization. So we have to go after them like the terrorists that they are and cut off their access to the financial network and possibly use lethal force against them. And this is where I know President Trump talked about it a few months ago, looking at, sending in some hit squads against the top leadership positions. But that's what I would be in favor of as well. I mean, we have to protect our border. We have to show that the drug cartels, that the United States is back in business, that we are not going to allow these illegal invaders to cross our southern border and allow open borders to continue on. Mexico, they're going to have a big problem with it, but President Trump's a tough negotiator too. And if they don't clamp down on it, we will.
That's right. We have to put America first. Well, Abe Hamadeh, I'm looking forward to having another great Republican representative from Arizona in the House. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Jordan.